Hi, my name is Mallory Whitfield, and in this class, we're going to talk about the power of Pinterest. This online tool can generate a ton of traffic to your website or blog or e-commerce shop. I've shared this information before at conferences like Venture Pop and Craftcation, and the attendees are always blown away by how powerful Pinterest can be when I show them the traffic that it's generating to my site and to other clients that I've worked with. So you're going to learn more about that, exactly how much traffic Pinterest can generate, why it's so powerful, how Pinterest is different from other social media platforms like Facebook or Instagram, and how to optimize your content for Pinterest so that it performs well there and sends lots of traffic back to your site. You ready to get started? Let's go. I think part of the reason that people underestimate the power of Pinterest is that they consider it to be a social media tool. So they think of Pinterest in the same way that they think of something like Facebook or Instagram. But in reality, Pinterest is a search engine. Pinterest has much more in common with Google or even YouTube, which is also a search engine, than it does with something like Facebook or Instagram. Even though on Instagram we also share beautiful pictures, on Pinterest we share them in a much different way. The kind of content, those pictures that you see on Pinterest, they last a lot longer on Pinterest than they do on Instagram. So for instance, if you share something on Twitter, it only lasts for maybe 18, 20 minutes on average before it is gone and nobody sees it again. If you post something on Facebook, you've got a few hours, maybe 2 to 6 is the average that I've seen referenced online. After that, if it doesn't get people commenting, interacting with it, liking it, nobody's going to pay attention again. It kind of disappears into the ether. Instagram, things tend to last a day or two, depending on if they get traction. There's those algorithms that we always have to deal with. So if people are interacting with it, you've got a couple of days before it kind of disappears and people aren't really engaging with it anymore. And this is where Pinterest is really, really different. So something might not kind of go viral and pick up traction immediately on Pinterest, but once it does, that piece of content can last and be valuable to people there for a really, really long time. I've seen pins that are months, sometimes even years old, send lots of traffic back to my websites. So something that I added to Pinterest months or years ago is still out there being seen by people, being repinned and shared, and being clicked and sending that traffic back to my site. So the other thing that is really different about Pinterest is that the demographic makeup is a little bit more specific and skews female, generally speaking. Now there's definitely guys on Pinterest. My boyfriend actually uses Pinterest to source his costume making inspiration. There's plenty of guys that use it. But if you're thinking about who your target audience is for your business and is Pinterest right for me, if you're primarily geared towards men, Pinterest might not be the right tool for you just because there's not going to be as many men on that platform. But if your target audience skews primarily female, Pinterest is a great place to be. The majority of people using Pinterest and active on Pinterest are women. They are also much, much more likely to buy things that they found on Pinterest and spend that money. Now, we'll talk a little bit later on about buyable pens and some of the really interesting ways that Pinterest has made it really easy for people to spend money there. But people who are on Pinterest are kind of already in a shopper's mindset. So if you sell e-commerce, especially if it's something like fashion or beauty or any of the types of popular topics that you see on Pinterest, recipes, food bloggers, things like that, anything aspirational that makes people want to live a better life, that stuff always performs really well on Pinterest. So if you're in any of those niches, any of those demographics, Pinterest is a really, really great place to explore and test out what you're doing and try to gain some traction there because it can really send a lot of traffic and revenue back to your company. Okay, so I told you that Pinterest is a search engine, not a social media tool, right? And in addition to acting like Google, it actually can help you with your other search engine traffic from Google and other search engines. Now here is the Pinterest super secret power that I've seen that I don't hear a lot of other people, even in the search engine optimization, the SEO world, talking about. So here is how I discovered Pinterest secret superpower. This is Google Search Console, which is an additional free tool offered by Google that can integrate with Google Analytics that we already looked at. But Search Console helps me submit information about my website to Google to make sure that it is indexed for their search engine. And I can see kind of what Google sees about my site. So here under search traffic and links to your site, it shows me all of the different links that it sees other websites pointing back to my website. So you can see the different top level domains that are linking to my website: Blogspot, WordPress.com, coldspaghetti.org, and Pinterest.com. So here's where things get interesting, because I noticed that Pinterest shows up in these links back to my website, right? It's seeing 1,400 links, 56 different linked pages or blog posts. And notice how as I look through this typepad, all these different random things, there's pinterest.co.uk, which is obviously the UK British version of Pinterest. I'm not seeing things like Facebook or Instagram. I'm seeing different versions of Pinterest from around the world, but I'm not seeing other social media tools. So all of these different pinned images show up as individual links back to my website, at least in the eyes of Google. And what that means is that is SEO juice and power for my website, which is really amazing because links are a huge part of what drives traffic as far as search engine optimization value goes. So in addition to driving traffic directly from Pinterest back to my website from people clicking through from Pinterest, it's also sending signals to Google that helps my search engine rankings within the Google search engine. Here's another cool trick to see what other people have pinned from your website to Pinterest. Now, if people can pin things, even if you are not active on Pinterest, you might already have content from your website on Pinterest. So if you go to pinterest.com/source and then type in your domain. So this is my friend Emily's website, sweetolivesoapworks.com. She is a handmade soap maker. You can see all of these different images that live on her website that have been pinned to Pinterest. And these images, these are images I created for her years ago with popular quotes about New Orleans. She had a blog post that she wanted to do about quotes around New Orleans because everything's made in New Orleans. Her brand has a lot to do with New Orleans. And these pins still send a ton of traffic back to her website. Even though they're not directly related to this beautiful handmade soap that she makes, it sends a lot of traffic back to her site and helps her to get seen. And of course, we've made graphics like this, 10 fun facts about bees and Louisiana honey, because she has honey soap. You can also see this on my website. So if you go to pinterest.com/source/missmalaprop.com, you can see older versions of pin images. Like this is a much older one than the one that you would see if you went to this blog post right now. You can see this 5 craft show must have, very popular, sends a lot of traffic back to my site. That's how you check to see what is already out there on Pinterest under your website. Now, there are certain types of content that Pinterest and the people who use Pinterest love and that perform really well on this platform. People go to Pinterest to be inspired or to learn how to do something. So when you're thinking about the kind of content that you're going to create for your blog or website or e-commerce shop that you're then going to create beautiful images for, that you're going to share on Pinterest and that people are going to share there and then click through back to your website, I want you to think about content and information that solves people's problems, makes their lives easier, and answers their questions. So even if you are selling online, you're selling from an e-commerce site, you probably have some sort of blog, or you can create resource type pages, gift guides, stuff like that. So I want you to think about how you can create certain types of blog posts or those resource pages, then create these beautiful, vertical, tall, eye-catching images that people will share and love on Pinterest, come back to your site. Let's walk through some examples. So here you can see that this type of content, these how-to biz tips by Regina, are very popular. Regina has a great blog for solopreneurs and other bloggers that show how to make money blogging, how to add a PayPal payment button to your site. Here she basically creates these Pinterest-friendly images with just the little bit of text, usually the title, subtitle of her blog post, and maybe includes a person's picture or something like money or computer in the background. So it's super simple imagery that she creates to go along with it and drive traffic back to her website. Insider secrets is the type of content that I've talked about for my craft show must-haves blog post, that very popular blog post that we already talked about. And here you can see I've created multiple types of graphics for that same blog post to drive traffic back to my site. This image is a much newer image, so it's only had 337 repins as of the time I took the screenshot. This is an older version of the same image for the same blog post that's been repinned more than 2,000 times. DIY tutorials are also super popular on Pinterest. So if you are a crafter, maybe you sell your handmade goods and you want to make a tutorial about something similar to what you make to kind of give people an idea of what it takes to create it, or maybe you're a DIY blogger, this type of content performs very well. Here, these images, they haven't really added text to it, but it's still vertically oriented to kind of show the step-by-step process that it takes to make some of these things. And so you can still create these tall vertical images without adding text to show this process. Resource guides are another popular type of content. Here, this is the Dear Handmade Life blog. They write content for crafters and artists and makers. And these are all images that they created for one single blog post, but they've created different types of images for the same blog post to give it more ways for people to share it and pin it on Pinterest. So it's all about sales tax and income tax guides for makers. They've created these different types of images to attract people back to that blog post. You can see different colors, a little bit of a different title, free downloadable tax cheat sheet. People always love it and are more likely to repin it, save it, share it, and click through if they think they might get a free something at the end of that clicking through over from Pinterest. So this is a great way to get traffic back to your website, is through resource guides like this. Curated gift guides is something that I myself have had a lot of success with. Now, these are images that I created for a Doctor Who gift guide. I first created this Doctor Who gift guide for an older site that doesn't exist anymore, probably back in 2012 or 2013. I created sections to the gift guide: Doctor Who gifts under $100, Doctor Who gifts under $50, which is what this one was. You can see this single image was repinned almost 11,000 times. So if you do anything related to products, whether they're your own products or whether you're trying to make money from affiliate marketing, this white background and sort of collage style of images with a little bit of text describing what this group of images is, this has performed very, very well for me. So by creating these and then creating that gift guide on my website, I've generated a lot of income from affiliate product marketing. Recipes, of course, are very popular on Pinterest, and if you want to drive traffic back to your recipe blogs, this is a great way to do it. A lot of food bloggers use this format where they have two different images of the food, one up top, one at the bottom, and in the center, they'll use text that says what this recipe is. Often they'll say what the website is in smaller print. These are from Budget Bites, which is my friend Beth's food blog. She also has a book and an app. It's a lot of really, really yummy, inexpensive recipes. Home decor tips, of course, are very popular on Pinterest. This is kind of a similar format to those food blog ones, 15 ways to make your bathroom more chic. You can see this is kind of one image that they've broken up with text in the center. But here on the best small space hacks, they've taken two different images and broken it up with the text in the center. And these have been repinned a lot of times. This one was repinned 1,800 times. Style inspiration is, of course, popular on Pinterest. If you are a fashion blogger and you want to give tips, or maybe you have a e-commerce store that specializes in clothing, These are great types of topic that always perform really well. Now you can either do simple fashion photo shoot, just a outfit post with a vertical image by itself. Those perform well. Also, these types of images where it's different ways to style the same piece of clothing with a little bit of explanation about what this graphic is. This how to wear and style black jeans. This performs very well too. And in-depth product reviews. Again, whether you are selling the products yourself as an e-commerce store owner or whether you're promoting other people's products, this is this format that's worked well for me in those gift guides where we've got the white background and all of the images kind of laid out in this collage style with a little bit of explanation about what you're looking at. New drugstore beauty buys or best drugstore makeup for acne-prone skin. All of these perform very, very well on Pinterest. Since Pinterest is a search engine, let's walk through some SEO, search engine optimization, basics for how to use descriptive language to make sure that your information, your content, your pictures get found on Pinterest, get shared on Pinterest, and get clicks back through to your website. So it's really important to be descriptive about what your pin images are, both in your pin description, on your Pinterest boards, basically everywhere you can use words and language to describe what these images are, do it. So you might have noticed you've seen images like this that clearly have this number that got pulled off of a digital camera, DSC051119.jpg. These are embroidery scissors, but if someone was searching for embroidery scissors, they would probably have a hard time finding this image because it's not described in a search engine optimization friendly sort of way. So you can see there's all sorts of random pictures that are going to be really hard for people to find if they're searching for them because the person who pinned them to Pinterest didn't take the time to properly describe them. Whereas over here, if I'm searching for embroidery scissors, these look like actually what I'm searching for, right? They're coming up because these people have described them antique scissors, embroidery scissors. They say in the pin description what I'm looking for, so I'm able to find it, right? Embroidery scissor wrist cuff, feeling stitchy. These are all very descriptive pins with descriptive pin information around them. So one of the ways that you can help make sure that people find stuff on Pinterest and they've pinned them from your site, whether you're pinning it directly from your site, whether somebody else is pinning it directly from your site, is to do something called adding alt text or alternative text. So here I'm in the back end of my website, missmalaprop.com. This is a WordPress website, but there should be a way to add alt text no matter what type of website platform you're using. If you're using something like Squarespace or Shopify, there's ways to make sure that your images are properly described. So to edit this image, just to show you what this looks like on the back end, I'm going to go into edit. This is the full image, best chair for craft shows and art markets, this little text overlay on the image. Here you can see alternative text. This is this alt text field. So I have a longer description because what happens is that this alternative text field gets pulled in automatically as the description for Pinterest if someone pins this from my site. So I'm just going to click update, even though I didn't change anything, and then show you what this looks like on the front end. So this is the same blog post on the front end. So here's the image that we just talked about, right? You see the image, but you don't see that alternative text on the front end if you're just browsing this blog post. But what happens is if I click the pin bookmarklet, and then I go to pull that image to pin it, right? I'm going to save it on Pinterest. Here we go. This gets pulled in automatically to the pin description field. So I don't have to do anything to add additional descriptions. And if somebody else pins it from my website, they don't have to do anything. Because a lot of people, if they're pinning from your website, they're going to be lazy. They're not going to edit this. Now, if you are pinning something and you don't have access to edit the alt text, maybe you are pinning it from somebody else's website, maybe you're repinning something that already exists on Pinterest, you can of course edit this field, edit this description, and add language that is descriptive, that is search friendly. So think about if somebody is searching in Pinterest, they might be searching for a director's chair. They might be searching for an outdoor chair if we're looking at this specific product, right? Like what words would people type into that search bar to look for? So if I'm typing in something, like what would I be looking for? Am I searching for acrylic nails? Am I searching for an ab workout? What am I looking for? Include those words that people would be searching for in that description. Now here's another place where you want to make sure you are using descriptive words to let people know what they're going to find in this board. So this is one of my Pinterest boards, Gifts for Coworkers. Each board has its own description in addition to those descriptions that each pin has. So gifts for coworkers. Coworkers can be hard to shop for, whether it's annual Secret Santa swap or for retirement or going away. Few fun gift ideas for coworkers that won't break the bank. So I'm giving examples of types of occasions that somebody might search for when they're looking for a gift for their coworker, because I want to make sure to come up if somebody's looking for Secret Santa gifts or, going away gifts, things like that. Now, you can also use Pinterest to do some keyword research to figure out exactly what phrases you should include. Just like Google, when you start typing something in, Akita puppies, right? So it gives you all of these variations of things that people are typing for around the same keyword phrase. Akita puppies, Akita puppy, Akita puppies for sale. So as you start to type in whatever your topic is, you'll get other ideas for additional support phrases and other variations of this keyword that you can include in your pin descriptions, in your Pinterest board descriptions, in your Pinterest board titles, and on your blog post or website pages themselves. Even though Pinterest isn't a social media tool in the same way that Facebook or Instagram are, it's still a social search engine. You're searching and finding information based on what other people on Pinterest have already pinned, repinned, shared. So you've got to think about how you can offer value in order to make sure that your information gets seen and shared by more people. So in addition to those SEO basics that we covered in the last class, there's some things that you can do to make sure that your information gets seen around the platform. Now, you don't want to be selfish, right? Always remember, never be selfish because givers get. So make sure to be pinning other people's information, not just sharing your own stuff and looking like a crazy spammer. Nobody likes spam. So please don't only share your stuff. Make sure that you're sharing things from your friends, things that are relevant to your ideal audience. Who are the people that you're trying to reach to come back to your website? What other things would be interesting to them? So for example, when I was working with a client who was a skincare product line, in addition to having boards that we built out around their skincare products, I also thought about what other types of information would be interesting to people who would be interested in skincare. So these are primarily health-conscious women. So we created a whole board around yoga and the yoga lifestyle and health tips. And then we created a whole board around clothing and women's fashion. Because the types of people that are going to be interested in the skincare products are going to be interested in other things too. Nobody's just a one-dimensional person. So your ideal customer is going to be interested in lots of different things. So think about all of the other types of things that this ideal customer would also be interested in, because those other information, while it's not directly sending traffic back to your website, it's helping to attract that right person so that your information is more likely to be seen by them. They're more likely to follow your entire account versus just following a specific board. And when they follow your entire account, it means that when you do share stuff from your company, they are going to be more likely to see that information. So remember that givers get, and don't be selfish about it. You want to mix it up because you don't want to be boring, right? So you want to make sure that you're pinning a mix of fresh, brand new content. Maybe you have a brand new blog post. That would be something fresh and new. It doesn't exist until just now on the internet at all, so it didn't exist on Pinterest yet. But then remember how Pinterest is very evergreen and content there can live for months or even years. So you also want to pick some of that evergreen stuff and some of that older material. Maybe you have a really great evergreen blog post that you haven't shared on Pinterest in a while. Maybe it's something that comes up once a year. For example, one of my most popular blog posts that has a ton of traffic, has made me a whole lot of money, and is very popular on Pinterest, is a holiday gift guide. It's for funny white elephant gifts. You know those white elephant parties where you just give ridiculous gag gifts? So I have a whole gift guide built around gifts for that purpose. And it's definitely not something that people look at in March or June, but when it starts to get towards the holiday season, kind of late October, especially November and December, that post gets a lot of traffic and traction. So every time when it gets to that time of year, I want to make sure to add those pins to Pinterest again, because even though there's older versions of that same pin, by adding it again, it means that people have the chance to see it all over again. So you want to mix it up in terms of new and old and types of content and topics that you're pinning on. Now, there's some other ways to make sure that your content gets seen, and that also involves other people. So there's group boards, and then one of my other favorite ways to make sure that you get seen is via something called tribes on a tool called Tailwind. And Tailwind exists outside of Pinterest, but it's super, super helpful. So let's walk through some of that information. Now, since Pinterest is a social search engine, it does offer lots of ways to get social. One of the main ways to do that is with group boards. So this is a very popular group board that I am a member of called Unlimited Life Hacks, Crafts, DIY, and Family Health Issues. It's a lot of different types of topics that are covered in this particular group board. As you can see, there's been a lot of pins and a whole lot of followers, which is the main reason that group boards can be really helpful, because there's usually more people following a big group board like this than there are people following your individual account. Now, even for me with 14,000 followers that I have, 37,000 plus followers for this group board is going to get a lot more eyes on a pin that I add to this board. Now, all of the boards have different ways that you can join them. They will usually say in the description what the board is for, what the topics covered are, any restrictions. So fashion posts must include a craft on the clothing in this particular board. And then they'll usually give instructions about how to join the board. So for this one, you email this person and they will add you to the board. Different boards have different rules about how to get added. Once you are added, it will show up in your list of all of the boards that you have when you go to pin something. So you'll just pin to it like you would anything else. So what I recommend doing is head over to Google and search for Pinterest group boards. And usually there's a lot of bloggers that have written directories of different group boards. There's even Pin Groupie, this Pinterest group board directory. Let's check this out. So that's honestly the best way that I found to find new group boards, other than just searching through, kind of spending time on Pinterest and finding them that way. But you can find these blog posts and directories. These are all sorts of different boards. They break them down by category, number of pins, number of collaborators, numbers of followers. So you can check that out, find a board that is right for you. So then another great way to find either the group boards or find other people to collaborate with is Facebook. So Facebook groups, there are a lot of Facebook groups that are for Pinterest pinning. So just search something like Pinterest group boards within Facebook. You'll start to find groups like these. You can pop over, see what their rules and restrictions are. And then usually they'll have threads where people can post different pins from Pinterest that they want people to kind of share. We'll talk about different opportunities that they have, different group boards that these people that are members of these Facebook groups have. So that's another way to find people to collaborate with and to share each other's stuff. And then one last way to share other people's stuff, to help them share your stuff, you share their stuff, is via the tribes feature on a tool called Tailwind. So Tailwind is cool because it helps you schedule and publish in advance pins to your account. But we're not going to talk about that right now because that's like a whole other thing. And they do offer a paid service, but they offer a little bit of stuff for free that you can get. And you can do some of this tribe stuff for free. So it's a really cool way to kind of try it out and get started. I'm actually looking at this account on my free account right now. So this is all information that I'm getting for free. There's limits to what you can do per day with a free account, obviously. So this is a tribe that I created called Badass Creatives. This is for anything around art and creativity and marketing advice for artists and creatives. Now, I request that everybody do vertical, tall images because we all know that those perform the best on Pinterest. You can see how many people have reshared things from this tribe, how many repins there are, how many people are in this tribe. You can see the list of members here. Now, in order to pin something to this tribe, the easiest thing is they have a little bookmarklet that's kind of similar to this Pinterest one that you install in your browser. And then once you've added your stuff to this tribe, it shows up here. And then if you want to share other people's stuff to the tribe, you can do so. So say that I want to share this exact steps to make $5,000 a month on a new blog super quick. Say that I want to share this to one of my blogging Pinterest boards. So I'm going to go down here and share this to blogging tips. And then I would simply say add to queue. And that is going to go into my Tailwind queue, which is the scheduled pins that are going to be published to my account from Tailwind. So that just pops up right over here. I don't really have anything in my queue right now because I haven't been using Tailwind a lot recently. So this is the only one showing up. This is going to pin later today. And that is how I do that. If I wanted to delete it, I can also do that. If I want to pin it immediately, I can also do that. Let's hop back over to the tribes feature because that's what I really, really want to talk about right now, because this tribes feature helps you help other people and vice versa. So we're looking at this tribe, but how do you find new tribes? Well, again, you can go to Google and search for Tailwind tribes to join, but they've added this find a tribe feature within Tailwind itself. So if we go to find a tribe, let's see what happens. So they'll give you categories that you can kind of dig through and tribe topics, or you can search for something. Now I'm with a free account, so I have a limit to the number of tribes I can join. And then some tribes you have to request to join and then the moderator will approve you. Some are approved automatically. It's a lot like Facebook groups. So let's see, I want to look at e-commerce tribe topics. So I could join this best of Etsy products tribe. I could request to join this digital marketing tips and ideas tribes. I can see how many people are in there, how active this group is. Let's join this best of Etsy products right now and just check it out. So it's loading my tribe content here. And I can see this is all about Etsy. They have tribe rules, Etsy post only, so I should only be posting images from Etsy. And for each pin that I add, I must schedule somebody else's pin. So it's like a add a penny, give a penny. You got to give as much as you get to the tribe. But this is really, really helpful way to get your stuff seen and kind of help other people out in the process. And what these numbers down here are showing is this is the number of items that this person, Lauren Thomas, has submitted to this group. Here I can see if I have shared anything. Obviously, I just joined this group, so I haven't shared anything yet of my own pins. This would be the pins that I've contributed of my own. This would be shared how many pins I've pinned of other people's stuff to my Pinterest account. I can also skip them if I say, I don't want to see that again. That's not really a good fit for my audience, this yellow scarf. I can skip this and hide it, and it'll show up here as skipped. So this Tailwind Tribes feature is really helpful for helping out other people and getting some help in return and making sure that there gets more eyeballs on your Pinterest content. Maybe you already have a Pinterest account, but it's a personal account. Now, personal accounts are great, but if you're using Pinterest for business purposes, you should really either set up a new account for your business or upgrade your existing account and convert it to a Pinterest for business account, because you get some really cool features that you have access to once you've done that. So let's walk through some of the benefits of Pinterest for business and what those features are. Using Pinterest as a personal account currently, I highly encourage you to join as a business, either creating a new Pinterest account for your business or switching your account over to a business account. Because once you do, you unlock a lot of different features This is the main Pinterest for Business page. You can just go to business.pinterest.com and it will get you all this information and links to everything that you need to do to sign up. It's of course got lots of incentives and tells you about why it's good to do it. You can get started with creating an ad, which is of course their advertising platform. That's how Pinterest themselves makes money from offering the service to you. Pinterest for Business gives you access to a lot of different marketing tools. Now, some of the tools that I think are most useful are Rich Pins and the Pinterest Analytics. So what are Rich Pins? Let me pop over here and kind of give you an overview. So Rich Pins basically pull in more information to Pinterest when they get pinned from your website. So you can go to this page, the business.pinterest.com Rich Pins. You can add the Rich Pins to your account. I'll show you a little bit more. I'll show you a little more about that in a second. But the product pins. So if you sell products, the Rich Pins for products, they pull in extra information into Pinterest. So we'll actually pull in the price, the product name. It'll make it more visible. If you are a food blogger, it'll pull in more information from your recipe. It'll actually break down the recipe itself and all the ingredients needed right there in Pinterest. If it's an article like a blog post or a news article like this one from Forbes, it just pulls in more information and makes it more eye-catching on Pinterest, more likely for somebody to engage with it, click through. If you're an app developer, you can also make pins that are Rich Pins. They're only compatible with iOS right now, as you can see, but these pins allow people to install the app directly from Pinterest without even leaving. So if you're trying to get more app installs, the app pins are another really cool feature. So let me show you. Here is the page that actually explains everything about how to set up Rich Pins. And it sounds really intimidating if you haven't done it yourself, but depending on what platform you use to run your website, a lot of this is kind of already enabled for you. So if you use something like Squarespace or Shopify, a lot of this stuff's going to be set up in the back end for you. So basically what you need to do is kind of validate your website with Pinterest so that the two are kind of connected together. So you will add a little bit of data, like a little tracking verification code. And then once you do that, you pop your website in their validator and then you validate and then you apply for Rich Pins. So once you get the code that they give you, you basically can pop over to your website and put it in depending on what platform you're on. If you use WordPress like I do, one of the easiest ways to make sure that you can set up the Rich Pins is to use a plugin called Yoast SEO. Now within Yoast SEO, they have a social tool that helps you with lots of different social media sites to do something similar to Rich Pins. There's different versions of this for Facebook and Twitter, but for Pinterest, once you have your meta tag that Pinterest gives you, a little code that looks like this, you pop it in here and you save those changes, and then you can go back and validate with the Rich Pins on Pinterest. Now, and here you would put in my website URL and click validate if I was trying to set this up brand new. But once you have all of that validated and you follow all these steps, you click apply now, your Rich Pins are showing up. All of that's going to be pulling in a lot more information to Pinterest from your website or e-commerce shop or blog. So that's why Rich Pins are really cool. They just help make your pins more visible on the platform. Now, if you sell e-commerce, buyable pins are a really cool way to make sure that your content is much more visible on the platform. So buyable pins only work with certain types of shopping platforms right now, but if you are using those platforms, it's free to do this. So right now, Shopify is one of the main e-commerce platforms that works with the buyable pins. There's a few others, I think BigCommerce and maybe one or two more. But basically what it does is it pulls in the information where it's got the price and everything, but then somebody can buy directly from Pinterest without even having to go directly back to your website. So the buyable pins are really cool, and that's another feature that comes with the Pinterest for Business and with certain e-commerce platforms. Now here is analytics. Analytics is super cool. Super informative. So once you've set up that Pinterest for Business account, you get access to your analytics. So you can see all sorts of information about how many people are following and viewing your Pinterest pins, how many people you reach and the types of people they are, and how much activity is coming from your website itself. So you can see some of what your top pins are. If you want to promote those pins and run an ad based on those pins, you can do it directly from this view in the analytics. You can see the number of impressions, the number of like eyeballs seeing any of your pins, the number of saves. We used to call those repins. They call them saves now on Pinterest. The number of clicks. And it shows me the pin type. So when we were just talking about the rich pins, all of these that are my top pin impressions, these are all rich pins. So that's kind of proof as to why rich pins are so great. They get a lot more views, a lot more visibility on Pinterest than just a standard pin. So I highly encourage you to switch over to Pinterest for Business and explore some of this stuff. Explore your analytics, see how much people are looking at and interacting with your pins, see which of your boards are the most popular. Because whatever is working for you, go deeper in that. I am all about that. The 80-20 rule. 80% of what is happening on your website, 80% of your traffic is probably coming from 20% of your content or 20% of the work that you've done. So focus on that top 20% of what you're doing to get 80% of all your results. And finally, Pinterest ads. So this is, of course, how Pinterest makes their money, is when people run ads. So if you're ever searching through Pinterest, you've probably seen the promoted pins. This is how you can set those up. There's different types of campaigns you can set up. Depending on what your goals are, of course. You can try to get more traffic to your website and have people click directly through. You can build brand awareness and just make sure that more people are seeing what you're doing. Boost engagement with your pins if you want to make sure that people are repinning or clicking on your stuff. Or again, if you're an app creator, you make mobile apps, you could drive installations of your app. So you do this, you choose a campaign that you want to do. These are some old campaigns, so let's just pop in cool gifts for guys worth the splurge. Let's just try this one. Name that campaign, then we scroll down, and then you kind of walk through this ad process. You can set up an ad group. I'm just gonna use something that I already had. You can then create a target audience. You can add interest and keywords. You can set these based on locations and languages and devices. You can either leave these things open to all devices, or say that you have something you wanna target specifically so that Spanish language speaking people in the United States only on, tablets that are all female. You can make sure that all of this is targeted to those people. Then you pick a pin that you're going to use. You can set a ad group budget. You can set the times that you want this advertisement to run. You can set your maximum bids. So I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on this because this class is just a high-level overview, but these are all the features that happen when you switch your account over to a Pinterest for Business account instead of just a personal account. So for the project for this class, if you haven't already done so, go ahead and set up a Pinterest for Business account or switch your account over to Pinterest for Business and explore some of these features that are offered here. And let me know how it goes. Share your project here with me.